Kilowatt, 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 kilowatt. All you parents that are angry at that song, feel free to leave your thumbs downs and nasty comments in the space provided below the video. On with the show.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
So, it looks like I've been getting a little too into polishing boots. Well, this shoe polish getting into all the wrong places is nothing that either a magic eraser or some strong alcohol can't fix. So, before we begin, a little plant update here. Turn off the purple vision here. So, the best salvia is still doing okay, but I planted the lupine seeds just to see what would happen, and these things sprung up like nobody's business. So that's the difference between trying to grow a full sun plant indoors and trying to grow a part shade plant indoors. I had to think about that for a second there. Not like it was that much of a tongue twister. Alright, it's time to bring the kilowatt out of retirement, because this is a video that I wanted to make last summer, and probably the summer before. So, I call it the Kilowatt Fan Tour. Not to be confused with a tour where musicians meet their fans, or the Grand Tour, that Amazon show with the former Top Gear guys. But I've wanted to know the wattage of the various fans I have around here, and what were the most power-efficient fans, if any, to know what they all contribute to the electric bill. I wanted to do this last summer, never got around to it, and it doesn't really make sense to be power testing fans during the colder months of the year. So let's take this thing around the place, check out the fans, check out the air conditioners, and check out other stuff that can function as a fan but isn't really a fan. First, let's take a look at the perennial grandmaster of the summer, the air conditioner. This is a GE air conditioner that I picked up last summer because the old one from 2005 didn't have the BTUs to cool the house properly, even though it still works pretty well. So this one was a step up in BTUs and also a step up in efficiency units as well, compared to the 2005 model. So running in cool mode with the fan on low, it gets to about 520 watts or so. If we crank the fan all the way up, imagine it'll bump it a bit, brings it up to about, once it's up to speed, 535 watts. Now that's interesting. Most of the wattage that an air conditioner contributes to a power bill is the direct result of the compressor and not necessarily the fan itself. Let's cut this to fan only. See how much things drop. So if you're just running it as a fan, air conditioners usually don't make very good window fans. You have 105 watts at low. Going up to high brings it up to, peaks at 133 while spinning up, then it goes up to 126 watts. Of course, the big thing I've been doing is, because I know these things are only good at cooling air and not very good at moving it around after it's been cooled, because I know about, these things are better at cooling air and not so good at rotating it after it's cooled, I usually pair it up with an oscillator fan instead of putting it on high. So let's see what the oscillator fan does. Of course, it's going to take a while for the compressor to come back on. This thing also draws a single watt in standby mode due to its electronic on-off switch. An important note with air conditioners, the so-called energy saver mode just turns the fan off when the compressor's off most of the time. I've never actually seen an energy saver mode that actually made the compressor run more efficient or something. I really think compressor technology with air conditioners is pretty much what it's going to be. So I just want to go with GE instead of the Arctic King Walmart specials that were being snapped off the shelves at the time. I bought this during a heat wave, so as you can imagine, I was looking for something with some kick to it, but I didn't want to buy a Walmart special, so I actually picked this up from a Lowe's. Great unit, even though it is pretty much a chunk of plastic, but what isn't these days? The Lasco cheap chunk of plastic air circulator fans. These things are usually found around Walmart or so. I'm going to see if I can get this to fire in just one direction. I can pull on that thing. So we've got it hooked up to the kilowatt. Let's fire it up in low mode. See what we're adding in order to better circulate the air around the house. 62 watts. So as we can see, we've got a lower wattage than the air conditioner running in fan mode. So if we go up to high, that cranks up to 84 watts. So usually what I do is just do this, and I send it around the house like that. And that runs about 62 watts, so the rotation doesn't really affect things very much. I'm just trying to keep this from getting air blown into it, which might be a challenge with these sorts of things. But as you can see, stuff that's designed to be a fan draws less power than stuff that's pretending to be a fan. I think that's going to be a pattern. The Lasco Wind Machine, that cheap chunk of plastic Walmart summer classic, has 3 speeds and it's plastic all over the place. It's one of those fans that wishes it was a big metal patent fan, but it's not. So let's fire it up. Is this high or low mode? That was high mode. So in low mode, once it gets up to speed, the wattage is 66. Similar to the other Lasco. Maybe they have similar motors or something. So 66. When you crank this thing up all the way, because it's hot out! Now you're approaching the 100 watt mark. But this thing moves a heck of a lot more air than the 100 watts out of that thing in fan mode. So it's cool that this gets down to about 60. It's cool this gets down to about 60-something watts when it's in low mode, because I'm running it in low mode the most. So just the airflow from low mode is pretty nice on a day when you don't need the air conditioner. So let's remember that 60 watt mark or so. These are kind of turning into incandescent bulbs in terms of their power usage. Let's check the other fan, the Aldi Special, that I use when I'm too lazy to turn this thing on because the power switch is in the back. So here's the Aldi Easy Home. This is a fan that I will use when I just need some air, sometimes not even in the summer. This is also pretty good for pointing at food to get it to cool down. Unfortunately, this model suffers from what's called fan stall, where sometimes the blades spin up too fast and they start breaking up the air instead of directing it forward. You can tell when it's doing this because the RPMs will be a little higher and there won't be any airflow whatsoever. Then you'll turn it off and back on again and the pitch will be lower, the RPMs will be lower, and there will be some actual airflow. I don't know if I can get this to do this in low mode while we're testing. But no standby power draw. Let's just point this straight up and let's put it in low mode. Alright, so this is low mode. It is not stalling. Low mode without stalling is about 30 watts. And when it cranks way up all the way, still not stalling. I don't know if I can get this thing to stall on purpose or not. Caps out at 38 watts. That's pretty awesome. Pretty decent amount of airflow, too. So aside from the problems with fan stall, this Easy Home fan is actually pretty decent. And if you just need some air, then it's very, very power efficient. Good stuff. This is the one my stepmother is going to love. Patent, metal, high velocity. My experience with these has been they're built like tanks for the most part. They pump air like nobody's business, and they suck power like nobody's business. It's usually overkill for most of the time when I just need to run a fan without AC. So let's see how well this one does. It's got a couple of years on it, and it's even getting a little bit of rust because it's made out of metal. Obviously got to clean the darn thing. And because I modded this to be able to blow straight down at the floor for one of my early down fan projects, it's very loose mechanically. So it's not uncommon for this thing, if it's at the right angle, to blow itself over. So, on low mode, big powerful motor with lots of airflow. I don't want to blow the monitor over either, but this thing's not going to stay put. Alright, well, let's do this. Let's blow it against the curtains. On low mode, ton of airflow as usual. 143 watts. And when we blast this thing up to full blast, let's try that again, because I almost wimped out there. It'll clear the 300 watt mark. And then when it's up to speed, it'll go back down to around 230 watts. So there's no question that high velocity on there is absolutely no joke. It is very high velocity. It's also very high power as well, and usually overkill for what I'm using it for. Usually the way where I've seen these used when I was growing up was the folks would be running the air conditioner in the bedroom and they'd be using this to blow the cool air everywhere else in the house. So it's very good for that, but it's unfortunately mega overkill, both in terms of airflow and power for most of the times when I just need to run a fan instead of running the air conditioner. So I almost never use this thing anymore because, as you see, it's a power hog, has plenty of airflow, but also plenty of power as well. And now at an awkward angle over in the bedroom is what I think is going to be the single biggest disappointment of them all. This is the Solius Air all-in-one HVAC box that I got way the heck back in 07, 06, or something like that. I got the Sunpentown replacement for this back when I actually would still experiment with portable air conditioners back in the late 2000s. This turned out to be useless as an air conditioner, not because it wasn't very good at it, it was extremely good, because it's actually a 2-hose one. You can see hose number 2 back there. But unfortunately, the Solius Air was the subject of a class action lawsuit because the air conditioner component was advertised as being self-evaporating and never needing to be emptied out like a humidifier or something. Unfortunately, due to the design, if your floor wasn't completely level, there was a very good chance that these damn things would leak. So, it's just... Portable air conditioners suck. Bottom line, don't buy them unless you absolutely have to. So I mostly use this as a heater nowadays. It does about 1,000 watts, which is middle range for a convection heater in the wintertime. It's also at the perfect height to blow some warm air towards the bed. Without being hot or anything. It's good at using warm air to heat things up, as opposed to some of the oil-filled electric radiators out there that do 600, 1200, 1500, or maybe even higher for wattage. But mostly these days what I use it for is a fan, because I have better heating and cooling options here. So, unfortunately it draws 1.6 watts standby power. Let's put it on in fan mode. It actually opens and closes quite nicely, and it's got nice little fan things. There's a little swing mode you can use to swing it around. Yeah, very relaxing stuff, and it even has an air filter in the back. So, alright, so this is low mode. Low mode runs at 76 watts. So we're already higher than what those things will do. I have one on the other side. So it depends on where I want the fan, basically. But if I crank this all the way up to high mode... No, it goes the other way. There we go. This is full blast. We have just about 100 watts. Not bad considering the... what happens when you turn on swing mode and it starts to move around a little? Doesn't really do much. We're still hanging around the 100 watt mark, and I never have this thing at 100 watts. I always have it on low mode, so we can drop this sucker back down into the 70s now. So the thing with this is, I think it has a squirrel cage hamster wheel fan instead of a circulating fan. Turn off swing mode, pop this back open, line that back up. So, about 75 watts or so, which is more than most of the other fans that can give me some airflow, including that thing running in low mode. So, about a 10 watt difference. I suppose it's close enough to be competitive with those things, but yeah. And the standby power, because it runs a computer module for everything, is not all that interesting. But at least it closes all by itself when you turn it off. The Lasco box fan. I can't get these at the weird Walmart in my neck of the woods anymore. They've switched to all their private label stuff. And the last private label fan that was going around the cheap stuff stores around here wasn't all that great compared to these Lascos. So I'm basically running them into the ground until the fuse blows in the plug, because the motor, dies or something along those lines. Anywho, let's see. These go into the window when it's cool out, but we are not running any AC. Let's see what kind of wattage they draw. Let's turn this on into low mode. Nice airflow. Really nice airflow. These will go in a window and bring in all the cool air from outdoors. Do better than most window fans. They start around the 70 watt mark, 72-ish once they're up to speed. And when we crank them up full blast, if we can pull the thing right side up, we're around the 100-watt mark. So this thing, full blast with all that airflow, is the equivalent of that thing on low mode pretending to be a fan. Now for something completely stupid. Just for the heck of it, let's fire up the old air conditioner from 2005 and see what numbers it gets. This thing is less efficient than its successor, and it's also lower BTU, and it is old and tired. It has done very well over the last 15 years, but unfortunately the plastic's starting to yellow, both on the side things and on the power cord. The power cord's the bigger concern, because when plastic yellows, public service announcement, it's undergoing a chemical reaction that's actually changing the makeup of the plastic, and it's going to become more brittle and not as good at doing its job. So I've been keeping this as a backup air conditioner in case something happened to the main one, but I don't think that's a good idea anymore because of the yellowing plastic, specifically on the insulation of the cord. Plus, if this becomes brittle and breaks, the thing could fall out of the window. So I might just very well scrap this instead of trying to second-hand it somewhere. I don't think it's even worth second-handing at this point. But let's see what kind of life is still left in this thing. Compressor's on. By the way, window air conditioners are completely useless indoors because the hot stuff is supposed to come out somewhere. 367 watts. That's on low mode. Let's crank this up to high mode. And once the fan's up to speed, it'll get up to 400 watts. But it's got lower BTUs, so that's the big thing to remember. This thing just couldn't handle the square footage of this place. Now, before we get things too hot with that compressor, let's get it out of the picture and go fan only, which has lots of wonderful feeling airflow. And we are down to 85 watts in fan mode, and we bring it down to low mode. Now we're down into the 60s. So maybe I could still use it in the bedroom if I only want to cool just the bedroom. The thing is, though, with one room being cool and the rest of the house being hot, there could be issues with heat seeping in and stuff like that. I found actually that the utility bills are actually better with one air conditioner that can handle the entire house instead of just this in one room. So I don't know at this point, but I'm especially worried about the yellowing that's going on. This thing has definitely seen better days, and although there are probably replacement parts out there for the sides, the yellowing power cord is a big source of concern. So it had a good run, roughly about 15 years or so, and it still works. It's actually a 6100 BTU air conditioner. So even back in those days, I didn't buy the bottom barrel cheapo air conditioner and think it would do more than what it actually did. The big thing that matters here, though, is, I'm looking through the viewfinder here, the big thing that matters is this EER of 9.7. So that's 2005. Let's take a look at the new one, if I can get the camera in there somehow while it's running. Ah, this feels nice. Hope it doesn't make too much noise. This one's 8,000 BTUs with an EER of 12.1. Alright, this is awkward. I can't hold this camera steady for beans. Well, it's kind of interesting that all it took was just getting the square footage of this place and sizing up the BTUs to match, and I've got an air conditioner that can air condition the entire geek house like a champ, and actually get a chance to turn off and let the compressor take a rest. Funny how that works when you have all your numbers the way they should be. Anyways, this concludes the summer 2019 kilowatt fan tour. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.